In the year 1521, the walls of Belgrade trembled under the impact of Ottoman cannons. The sky darkened with smoke from the bombardments, while desperate screams echoed through the streets of the besieged city. When the defenses finally crumbled and the Janissaries stormed through, one of the darkest chapters of Ottoman conquest began. The fate of the defeated warriors' wives would be sealed by practices that shocked even the brutal standards of medieval times. What followed an Ottoman victory was not merely a military matter, but a meticulously organized system of human domination that transformed people into commodities. The wives of vanquished enemies did not simply face death or exile, but something far worse: the complete annihilation of their identity and dignity through practices that revealed the cruelest face of Turkish expansionism. To understand the magnitude of this horror, we must return to the heart of the Ottoman Empire at the height of its power, when Constantinople had become the center of a system that transformed military conquest into a machine of human exploitation unprecedented in history. The Ottoman system for treating prisoners was not a product of chance or uncontrolled barbarism. It was a carefully crafted state policy, codified in Islamic law and administrative practices that regulated every aspect of the fate of the conquered. The concept of sabaya, women captured in war, was deeply rooted in Islamic jurisprudence and was applied by the Ottomans with terrifying administrative efficiency. When a city was conquered, the first act was not disorganized plunder, but the implementation of a system of human cataloging. Specialized officers scoured the streets, separating men, women, and children into categories. Women were subjected to degrading evaluations that determined their value in the slave market. Young and beautiful ones were reserved for the harems of superior officers or sold in the markets of Constantinople. Older women were destined for heavy domestic labor or the most degrading tasks. The selection process was conducted with the coldness of a commercial operation. Ottoman physicians examined women like cattle, checking their health, reproductive age, and physical qualities. Those considered most valuable received special marks and were separated from the rest. This systematic dehumanization was only the first step of a journey that would destroy their former identities. The journey to the slave markets was itself a form of psychological torture. Chained and crammed into carts or forced to walk hundreds of miles, many women did not survive the trek. Those who arrived alive at the great markets of Constantinople, Bursa, or Ankara discovered that their suffering was only beginning. The Ottoman slave markets were well-established institutions with rules, regulations, and even warranty systems for buyers. At the Great Slave Market of Constantinople, located in the Eminönü district, captured Christian women were displayed like merchandise in human showcases. Potential buyers could inspect them, check their teeth, examine their musculature, and even test their domestic skills before making an offer. The process was deliberately humiliating, designed to break any remnant of dignity or resistance that might remain. The youngest and most attractive faced a particularly cruel fate in Ottoman harems. Contrary to the romantic fantasies popularized by later literature, these harems were gilded prisons where women lived in constant terror and competition. The imperial harem, a Topkapi palace, housed thousands of women captured in wars throughout the empire, each struggling for survival in an environment of deadly intrigue and arbitrary favoritism. The harem system was not just about sexual pleasure, but about power and control. Women were forced to abandon their native languages, their religions, and even their names. They received Turkish names and were obliged to learn Ottoman customs under penalty of severe physical punishment. This process of forced acculturation was designed to erase their former identities completely, transforming them into Ottoman property, not only legally but psychologically. Those who resisted this conversion process faced torments specifically designed to break their will. Food and water deprivation, isolation in dark cells, and physical punishments were applied systematically until resistance was completely crushed. Many women, unable to bear the psychological pressure, developed mental disorders or attempted suicide as the only escape. The most disturbing aspect of the Ottoman system was its bureaucratic efficiency. Every captured woman was registered in official books with details about her origin, age, skills, and market value. These records were meticulously maintained by imperial scribes, creating an archive of human misery that served both administrative purposes and as a demonstration of the Sultan's power over his conquered subjects. For the wives of particularly important warriors or from cities that offered prolonged resistance, exemplary punishments were reserved. Wives of enemy commanders were often forced to serve in the harems of the same Ottoman officers who had defeated their husbands. This psychological humiliation was considered a way to break the spirit of resistance in conquered populations, proving that not even noble women were safe from Ottoman vengeance. The system also included a cruel economic dimension. Captured women were not only exploited sexually or as domestic workers, but also as breeders of future slaves. Children born to slave women automatically became the property of their masters, creating a permanent class of servitude that perpetuated itself through generations. Mothers were forced to raise children they could never truly consider their own, knowing that at any moment those children could be sold or gifted away. Forced religious conversion was another terrible aspect of the system. Captured Christian women were obliged to convert to Islam through ceremonies that were more humiliation rituals than genuine expressions of faith. Those who refused faced systematic torture until they yielded. Once converted, they lost any legal possibility of returning to their original families or communities, even if they managed to escape. The psychological impact on victims was devastating and lifelong. Accounts from women who managed to escape or were freed describe profound trauma that lasted the rest of their lives. Many never managed to readjust to their original societies, having lost their language, religion, and customs during years of captivity. The Ottoman system not only enslaved bodies, but destroyed souls. Resistance, though rare due to constant surveillance, did occur. Some women organized collective escapes, others refused food until death, and some managed to send secret messages to their families. When discovered, such attempts were punished with extreme severity, often through public torture, designed to discourage others. The legacy of this exploitation system extends far beyond the borders of the Ottoman Empire. The practices developed and refined by the Ottomans influenced other systems of slavery throughout the Muslim world, creating legal and administrative precedents that persisted for centuries. The bureaucratic efficiency applied to systematic dehumanization became a terrible model later adapted by other empires. The demographic and cultural consequences were enormous. Hundreds of thousands of women were torn from their communities during centuries of Ottoman expansion, creating permanent population imbalances in many regions of the Balkans, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. Entire communities lost generations of women, forever altering the ethnic and cultural composition of these areas. Documentation of these horrors exists in abundance in Ottoman archives, but for a long time it was minimized or romanticized by historians who preferred to focus on the military and administrative achievements of the empire. Only in recent decades, with greater access to primary sources and changing historical perspectives, have we begun to grasp the true extent and systematization of this exploitation. The Ottoman system of treating captured women represents one of the clearest examples of how absolute power can corrupt basic humanity. The transformation of human beings into property through sophisticated bureaucratic processes reveals how civilization can coexist with the most extreme barbarism, so long as that barbarism is organized, legitimized, and systematized by state institutions. Today, as we confront our own era's challenges of human rights and dignity, the history of women captured by the Ottomans serves as a somber reminder that moral progress is not guaranteed, and that the human capacity for systematic evil remains a constant threat. The memory of these anonymous victims, whose names were erased from records, but whose suffering echoes through the centuries, obliges us to remain vigilant against any system that treats human beings as property or merchandise.